Good morning. My name is Daniel Enriquez. Yesterday, I did the best I could to express to everyone via a long-form video about the difficulties and the truth about my life and how difficult it is to communicate, exist, and function under the amount of stress, pressure, and pain that I have to deal with as being a victim of a bunch of stuff. I had two options. Either continue to live as a victim and cry on YouTube, or make some significant changes. I chose to make significant changes. But please understand that the videos that I will film today are in rapid fire succession in order to communicate and do my job. It has nothing to do with entertainment. It has nothing to do with my personal issues. It has nothing to do with glory, ego, or anything like that. I am just doing my job today. So you will see a series of videos that have names. Those names are for who the videos are meant for. And the reason why these videos are public is because that the weapon that is being used against me is silence, oppression, and ignorance of the law. Please understand what silence is. Silence is deadly when it comes to litigation as well as winning. You cannot win and be quiet at the same time in court. In order to understand all of this, you must understand something called the Rhesus paradox, Caspar-Acidic transcript Sarmello, as well as a series of other inventions that I need at least half an hour to an hour to clean up this board. And as a matter of fact, I could start right now. Today is a very exciting day. Yesterday I had produced a deal that would generate both it would generate approximately $500,000 in cash for my wife Mallory. It would allow her to maintain residence. It will allow her to receive a monthly stipend to make sure that all of my children's expenses are fully paid for. I intend to pay 100% of my children's expenses once this is consummated. But in order to understand all of this, you must understand how. How does a human being who's worth $20 to $30 million in 2021 lose all of it plus have claims of over $100 million? Well, it starts with a story about my lawyers, as well as courts, judges, and politics. But those stories are relatively boring. So for today, I recommend nobody really watches the videos because they are just meant to publicly disseminate facts, because the court of law is a public space. In order to understand why, you must go back into history and remember that we are rebels. We as a country are revolutionaries. That's why it's called the American Revolution. We went against our oppressors. We went against the system. We went against the people that funded, paid, and controlled all of our revenues, lives, and decisions, which were the British. I, as a human being born in a different country, understand the value of the world that we live in. Living in a digital world is very complicated for people who are stuck in the 90s. But for myself, my children, as well as anyone else that understands that no more secrets, Marty. That's a line. In yesterday's movie, I was able to express that The Naked Gun is a very, very funny movie. And I tried to do something regarding the reality of being a white, outspoken man in a world where white men are the root of the majority of the main problems as they are perceived. Please always remember that every single white guy that does everything that's really horrible and is perceived to be bad, he is supported by hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are multiracial, multicolored, as well as truly a whole football team of people that clap and cheer this person on as long as they pay them to do that. One of the biggest paradoxes that I find is that human beings use race and gender in order to facilitate marketing. For example, I'm sure many of you have heard a product being sold as a black-owned business or a female-owned business or a black female-owned business, and you have been told to support those businesses. But what happens to African American, Island American, or people of color who work in large corporations who produce the products that are in competition? A great example of that is the Stanley Corporation and the mugs. I don't know if it's Stanley or one of the companies that makes the bottles that all the teenage girls are drinking out of. There's many derivative forms of it where human beings buy products from China, they put a label on it, they call it a black-owned business, and they sell a very similar product as Yeti or things like that. Please understand that from purely a mathematical perspective, this is a lie when a human being purports that a black-owned business is for some way better than any other business. Because what it really says is that none of the people that are of color that work for the larger corporations that are producing it should be receiving an income, or it should be affected significantly because the one individual who is of color wants to break away from the group. This is mathematically paradoxical. You are lying to the consumer, and only in laissez-faire economics, where the better brother wins mentality, is the true form of identifying which product is better. You must actually be better. When Netflix just paid $72 billion for Warner Brothers, I think they got a really good deal. The products and the narratives that Warner Brothers owns is worth about $250 billion. They paid approximately 1/3 of that because it was both in cash and because of the uncertainty of what's going on, such as this channel. Human beings like myself have the ability to create content and make the audience far more interested in following true narratives like this rather than made up billion-dollar productions that simply have finite shelf life and are not respected by the future generation. Ladies and gentlemen, all this is me saying good morning. Boys, I love you very much. You're going to be really proud of your father in the next couple of days. I'm going to do something that has never been done before. Tomorrow I will be shattering a Guinness Book of World Records, which will truly silence absolutely everybody, and very few people who... Hey, this is just a follow-up. It is 12:15. I have not been able to do any work other than court submissions and endless amounts of labor that is put towards trying to undo this mess that I'm involved in family court. And I'm doing this for my boys because for myself, I physically can't function without them. I think I've expressed that pretty well. But rather than making threats, I want to make a warning. And this is my final attempt. I go into court at 1:30. Tonight, I will film the resolution that either was reached or was not reached. I have submitted to every requirement possible. I have presented a viable offer that resolves all of our financial issues, as well as letting both parents move on with their lives. I have done what's best for my children to make sure that they stay in the Livingston School District for their entire lives. I've taken the responsibility fully upon myself. The only thing I ask of my wife is to stop lying and to be transparent with exactly what's been going on in the background. Answer questions honestly. Be truthful. If that is not enough to get the truth and cooperation for the best interests of my children, then this is the final video that I will make as a nice guy saying that, hey, no human being should ever be bullied to the point where their own friends come to them and are confused as to why they do not have their children. I assure you, it was a wake-up call, but not in the way a lot of people might think. The only thing that people respect in today's modern society is money and litigation/fear. This is the wrong way to live life. The right way to live life is to be able to look at the circumstances that you're facing, such as my adversaries, and say, look, obviously Rhesus has cracked the code and is now able to use the transcripts in reverse, and we're all fucked. And I highly recommend everyone gets in line to settle or resolve their conflicts, because I will never lose in court at this point. The only thing that I was missing was the Rhesus Paradox, which I have taken a week off of filming to do two things. One, perfect, finalize, and implement the Rhesus Paradox. Two, show discipline, constraint, and restraint of filming content while I definitely wanted to film, but to show that I do not need to film this content for myself. I film it for my business, for my children, for my future, and for every other person that has been bullied, harassed, destroyed, and then the person who is hurting them turns around and invents stories to make it seem like the person that is being bullied is actually the bully. A little bit complicated and confusing. But I want to remind everyone today is my final attempt to amicably resolve this until tomorrow when I break the World Guinness Book of I will shatter it tomorrow. The Guinness Book of World Records for something very important, not for today, not for monetary purposes, but for the future. The future is something that I care about, and my care, dedication, love, and commitment to my children is really the weakest part of my life, because everybody who knows me very well knows the only way to get to me is through my children, which is what exactly has happened here. The torture is over. My boys need me. I need my boys. The joke is over. I am not a drug addict. I have no mental illnesses that impair me to be a father, hurt anyone, or find me to be a danger in our living society. I have over 4 decades to prove this, and I believe that if I do not have an amicable resolution, like Napoleon said, if I do not have peace today, I will be forced to go to legal war tomorrow. This will be devastating for anyone who cares about legal budgets or living a nice, healthy, normal life afterwards, which is what I want. If I do not get my children and my rights back, this is the United States of America. I'm not demanding anything. I am asking nicely to restore what's unalienable and what is protected by both the U.S. Constitution as well as tens of thousands of case laws that are behind me. I have the entire Republican Party, the gay community, strangely enough, but very accepted, and 400 ghosts, teams of federal agents, and I will expect 6 ghosts to be present to make sure that they are witnessed exactly what's happening. And my goal is to bring the family together, not to break it apart. But if I'm not able to bring it together amicably, through love, through peace, through dedication, through commitment, and through everything that any man of code and honor stands for, then I assure you I will see you on the legal battlefield very soon.